Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing the story, What if Naruto rejected Konoha for Kushina and saved Mikoto from tragedy? This is part 2. If you're enjoying this fanfiction, make sure to smash the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe with the bell icon so you never miss the next part. Alright, let's begin part 2. Konoha. Sarutobi Compound. Naruto-kun, why do you wish to learn wind jutsus at such a young age? Sandaime Hokage asked, looking straight at the blonde, who was lying on the ground at the training area within his clan's compound. He usually took some time to teach the boy a few things when he could. He was surprised when Naruto suddenly asked to be trained in using wind jutsus. He hadn't expected the blonde to demand to armor himself with everything he could hold at this stage. Yes, he did understand that the blonde's desire to protect his mother was greater than anything, but at this stage, he wished for Naruto to live a bit more normally, despite the circumstances that surrounded him. He believed that it was not impossible for Naruto to gain friends and live a happy childhood. It was possible. Naruto just wasn't sold on the idea of exploring the possibilities. Perhaps he should have barred young Itachi from showing Naruto his chakra nature. He'd allowed it to happen because he believed it would quiet the blonde a bit, but that turned out to have the opposite effect. The blonde's chakra coils had developed far earlier than most children. It perhaps had to do with his Jinchuriki status, and as the blonde was willing to train, it wasn't wrong to teach him about chakra. I want to be strong, Gigi, Naruto said, staring at the clear sky. He had to be strong, for his mother. Hiruzen sighed, looking at Naruto. Sometimes the blonde did wear him out. Yes, I know that. Wind manipulation isn't the easiest thing you can do at your age, Naruto. Learning to control wind chakra takes years of training and hard work. He could remember his own days, staring at a waterfall while trying to cut it. It didn't actually take years to learn the manipulation of wind chakra, it depended on the capacity of the executor's mind to learn. Controlling pure wind was the most difficult. Then isn't it only right that I start now if it takes so many years to learn? If I start now, by the time I reach a more mature age, I will be able to manipulate the element, Naruto reasoned with the third. He shouldn't have said that, but he did know how to handle this child. Yes, that would be the most reasonable option, he said, not wanting to deny a straight-up fact. However, that is the kind of thing that Root Anbu learns at your age, and I don't want to treat you in the same manner. I don't want you to have the same mentality as Root Anbu and endure the same harsh training Danzo gives them. I really appreciate that, Gigi, Naruto said quietly. You have really treated me well over the years. I don't think I can even imagine you teaching me how to become an emotionless robot like Danzo does with his root. A rare small smile appeared on his face when those words left his mouth. He could always count on the Sandaime to treat him well aside from his mother. This is what it meant being the son of a former Hokage, privileged to know more about the inner workings of the village. Minato had lots of things inside his office, secrets and everything. All of which were not hidden from him by his mother. She didn't seem to mind him making himself comfortable in his father's study, even when she knew he was reading some things he shouldn't. She just didn't allow him anywhere near those kinds of S-rank secrets. What Danzo was and did wasn't something that could be classified as S-rank. The third chuckled lightly, well, I wouldn't be living with the will of fire in me if I went to the extreme. Besides, Kushina-chan would kill me. Naruto smiled, yes, she would, he said. Mother can be overprotective sometimes, not that he was complaining about it. He wouldn't have it any other way. Aren't you like her in that regard, Naruto-kun? The Hokage asked, slightly amused by the thought of how both mother and son were overprotective of each other. Even so, the fact that Naruto never seemed to notice that he was overprotective of his mother. Well, he was still just a 7-year-old, regardless of how smart he was. Maybe, Naruto said with a shrug. He was never going to openly admit it, nor was his mother. To him, it was only right that he thought of his mother's safety all the time. Back onto the matter at hand. I think it is necessary for me to learn all that I can when looking at the environment that surrounds me. I do not disagree with your assessment, but you should mind your age as well. Other children your age aren't concerned about their mothers in the way you do. That doesn't mean they don't care, it only means they know their role is to be children and allow their parents to protect them. Naruto got up from the ground. He had recovered enough energy from the taijutsu training the Sandaime was teaching him. He couldn't learn taijutsu from Itachi because the Anbu captain's style went along with his Sharingan. He didn't have those eyes, so the style wouldn't suit him. The blonde sat carefully, legs crossed and looked at the third, who was sitting just away from him. I feel you are saying that I'm acting like an adult, instead of being a child. But you forget that the father is always the head. I don't have that. The third shook his head slightly. I can never forget that you don't have that, Naruto-kun, but your mother isn't a civilian. She is a retired jonin. Don't you always brag about her superior knowledge with seals whenever you get the chance? Even the saying of those words by someone was enough to make him smile. Still, I do what I must for my mother, he could only say. If father was here, then the story would be different. Admittedly, the Sandaime Hokage acknowledged with a sad frown. It is unfortunate that Minato passed away at such a young age. He could have been doing a better job than I am. Maybe, or maybe not, Naruto said. Possibilities are always there. You have your experience to count on. Your physical prowess may be deteriorating, but your mind hasn't. So, it is still arguable. Nevertheless, it is indeed cruel that he pathetically died. He didn't pathetically die, Naruto, Sandaime said firmly. No matter how many times he had to repeat it for Naruto to get it through his head, the Sandaime would always have the strength to say it. Minato-kun died a noble death. Like I always say, in your and the villagers' perspective, that recorded answer once more, but Sandaime wasn't worried, he knew Naruto's weakness and he would eventually expose it. Have you ever questioned yourself about what you would do in his position? I know if someone threatened your mother you would do anything possible to save her. Minato did what he believed was best to save his family and the village he had sworn to protect no matter the cost, no matter the pain. There are ways he could have gone about that, and still be alive. Giving away his life wasn't a necessity. The fact that Naruto didn't actually hate his father for sealing the Kyuubi in him was a relief for Hiruzen, and the fact that a part of him understood that he had to protect his village. What Naruto resented from Minato was that he died. There wasn't anything else that Naruto resented about his father. The fact that he died instead of living hurt the blonde more than he was willing to admit. Naruto wanted his father to be there to protect him and his mother. He wanted his father to stand up for his family. What made matters worse was that the very people Minato had died protecting hated him, his father's son. The people had been quick to disregard Minato's wishes in favor of their hatred. Naruto hated that. He resented his father for being too trusting. If the people had accepted him as a hero and didn't make him and his mother's life a misery, there wouldn't be any resentment on Naruto's side. None at all. Your mother told you, didn't she? The seal Minato-kun used allows you to use the Kyuubi's chakra. The seals that held the Biju in your mother and Mito-sama were meant to hold it back. What if your father believed that the Uchiha would return once again to Konoha? The fact that the Uchiha is still alive means that your father failed to kill him. What if he thought the best way to protect his family and Konoha was to give you the Kyuubi's power? Wouldn't that explain why he chose you and that seal specifically, despite your mother's arguments? Naruto clenched his fists. I have thought of that possibility, he said. Obviously the answer didn't please him given the clenched fists. But nothing can take away from what I have been forced to experience because of his decision. The third smiled sadly. Minato's only fault was that he trusted the villagers to see you as a hero. A part of me thought they would. Which is why I honored his wish to tell the people of your status, he said. Nevertheless, I still do believe that your father trusted you, his own son, to protect his wife and this village against an enemy he knew he couldn't defeat. His hopes may have been crushed, but I honestly believe he gave you that power to protect what he held dear. That is why he chose to die while you live. This is why I give my time to teach you, so that Minato's other wish comes true. Naruto's response was to frown while his mother complex wrestled with reason. The third knew it. This is why even though his Anbu had marked Naruto as a flight risk, he still believed that Naruto would change. His mother complex stopped him from adhering to any reasonable conclusion he came up with. If the complex was crushed, Naruto would understand things. But for now, he could hope. No matter how smart he may be, he was still a 7-year-old child. Your mother must believe your father trusted you to carry out his wishes well. Using his mother broke all arguments. One would think he was manipulating the boy by using his mother, but this was just the truth and he needed Naruto to understand clearly. I believe this is why she still lives in this village and possibly told you about the seal so that you can understand. Tell me, Naruto-kun, do you think your mother resents him? No, Naruto grunted. If anything, she missed him. Perhaps that was another part of the reason he resented his father. I will still train you regardless, Sandaime said. However, if you're going to learn wind manipulation, you're going to have to allow your chakra coils to mature, and learn to control your chakra. My reserves are nothing compared to when I was in my prime, but I make up for it by using the minimum chakra required for a jutsu. This is all thanks to my excellent chakra control. Kakashi has said that despite my age, I do possess large amounts of chakra. At this age it can be controllable, however, if it continues to grow as it has been, it'll become hard for me to control it as you do with yours. He may be right, but should you learn extensive chakra control at this age, you should be able to control it well as it grows. The problem becomes when you attempt to control chakra that is out of control, the Sandaime Hokage said. Naruto nodded. I assumed it may be so, he said. One more thing you'll have to do to continue receiving training from me, the third said. Naruto had a feeling he knew what the third was going to say. He even dreaded the answer as he asked, what? Go to the academy. I will handle all your paperwork. Yup. This is what he definitely suspected. I don't want to, he whined like the 7-year-old he was. Has your mother spoken to you about the academy? Yes, she has. And what did she say? She said she wanted me to join the academy and make friends, Naruto said. The Sandaime smiled. Do you want to make your mother happy, Naruto-kun? Of course, do you even need to ask? The response came out of the blonde's mouth without even a moment of pause and some firmness. There was no doubt he wanted to make Uzumaki Kushina a happy mother. Join the academy and make friends, Naruto-kun. Naruto's response was to frown. You've seen it, haven't you? When Sasuke-kun comes back from the academy and tells his mother how well he did, she always smiles at him. Sometimes she even walks him there. If you think I'm pulling one over you, go ask your mother. The third added, I know you're not optimistic about making friends, but don't lose hope in the young ones as well. Naruto's frown just deepened. I'll speak to her, he said. Good, the third said. Well, today he did a lot of groundwork. This was worthy of a treat at the ramen stand. But first thing first, Naruto-kun, we'll have to go to Suna in 2 days. No. It wasn't anything the third Hokage hadn't expected from the blonde. Come on my boy, don't you want to see Temari-chan? Once more again, Naruto just frowned. It was a year ago when his mother told him that there was some signed agreement between Konoha and Suna. His mother had participated in it as well. The agreement was that he was to marry Yondaime Kasuke's daughter when he turned 18. The agreement had been struck when the Sandaime was contemplating allowing him and his mother to take refuge in Suna until things cooled down in the village. He had yet to even reach 1 year of age when his mother and the Sandaime found him a fiancé. The Sandaime's reasons were to strengthen Suna's ties with Konoha. The village doesn't have a lot of allies, despite the village being the strongest in the elemental nations. His mother also feared that since he was hated, he was likely to grow without a girlfriend. So she found the perfect girl, a girl who has a Jinchuriki for a brother. A potential friend, possibly. Last time you went without complaints. Mother was going, Naruto said with a shrug. Well, I didn't say she wasn't going this time now, did I? Oh. The Sandaime chuckled. He did that on purpose. Definitely. Come on, Let us go get ramen before my clone runs out of chakra. 4x. Sandaime couldn't be more ashamed of the village he led as he walked through the streets of Konoha with his beloved grandson. The looks they were giving the boy were not pleasant at all. It just downright disgusted him. Minato would be ashamed if he saw how these people treated his own son. The devil even sneaked into his thoughts, asking questions like, if Minato could be given a second chance, would he still follow the same path even if he knew that Konoha would once again treat his son this badly? There were so many times that he'd wished that Minato had allowed him to be the one to sacrifice his soul to the Shinigami for the sealing for the Kyuubi. He had lost his wife that night, and his sons had all grown up. Nobody needed him anymore. As long as Minato had been here, everything would have been okay. He had mentored the young Hokage enough when he first took the post, so he could have handled things well in the aftermath of everything. Perhaps that sacrifice would have made up for all the wrongs he did in his long life. Still, he was here and a young man who had a bright future was dead. Gone along with the creepy wind of October 10, 7 years ago. How could these people smile at him and greet him respectfully while simultaneously sending death glares at the poor boy? At least not everyone was that bad, even amongst the civilians. But the majority were bad. Regardless, his ways couldn't let him lose hope in this people ever changing. He believed they would eventually change. Naruto just had to do something good for them to see that they'd been wrong about him. The past wouldn't be erased even if they do change though. Still, there was a big question on whether they would change or not. This is rather unpleasant, isn't it? The third Hokage admitted, rather bitterly while looking at the blonde, walking on his right side. Unpleasant. Naruto seemed to ponder on it for a few moments before he shrugged. Unpleasant it is, for lack of a better word. I've become used to it nonetheless. The first years were difficult. But like the heat in Suna, once you live there long enough, you grow accustomed to it that it becomes natural, not to say that this feels natural by any means. I get what you're saying, Sarutobi said, keeping the mild taste in his tongue. Do you think they'll ever change, Naruto-kun? I stopped asking myself that question when I was 5, Gigi, Naruto said. The professor let out a bitter chuckle before he responded, those years were truly bad. At least things have bettered a bit in recent years, he added. Do you think it would have been much easier for you if the deal to have you live at Sunagakure with your mother had gone through? Keeping in mind, it would only be temporary. Maybe or maybe not. Logic dictates that it would have been pleasant as those people don't know my Jinchuriki status. But that is that and this is the reality. Dwelling on what could have been doesn't help with anything. Such thoughts plagued my mind in abundance. How would things be like if father was alive? Would they hate me? Would I be running around the village with a smile? Those kinds of thoughts did nothing but dish out the misery in a large bowl. The reality of things is that my father is dead, and I resent him for it. Konoha hates me, and I must learn to live with all that. A frown threatened to break free on Sandaime's face, but he suppressed it. We can only hope. That is for you. I have nothing to hope for, Naruto said. When are you going to retire anyway? You're going to be a real grandfather soon enough. Don't remind me, the third said. I won't retire until you grow old enough for me to say you are strong enough, the Sandaime added, ruffling up the boy's hair affectionately. Naruto let out a tiny smile. Small as it was there, the third noted it with great care. I wouldn't have it any other way, Gigi. Later. The Sandaime Hokage has always been a pervert. Always. Even when Jiraiya was just a brat, he had been a pervert. However, he has always hid his perverseness from other people because it would be embarrassing. If it wasn't because of the repercussions in waiting, he would even indulge in the peeking his former student does, while he had his crystal ball. That was his secret though. What would people say if they heard that? The professor, god of shinobi, the Sandaime Hokage and Konoha's long-serving kage, was a shameless pervert who giggled in the confines of his office while watching young girls splash water at each other in the hot springs, through his magic ball. When this woman walked into the office, a warm smile painted across her face, lips colored in blue and long red hair that reached down the curvy waist, the Sandaime couldn't help but stare. Dignity be damned. This woman's beauty begged for his perverted side to look at her in wonder and in all indecent forms he could compute. Ahem, Jiraiya cleared his throat before his sensei started drooling. It was enough that he'd hit on the woman before, now for his sensei to drool over her would be just embarrassing. Nevertheless, it would confirm something: the woman was a beauty. If his sensei could see it, then he had not been wrong. Sensei, not in front of your own student. You're embarrassing me, the Toad Sage said, a smirk on his face. What was wrong with these men? Mei thought, looking at the third and his former student. The Toad Sage was already infamous with some women with his books, but she didn't have a problem with them. The third was supposed to be a dignified old man of peace with an image to uphold, but upon her entrance to his office, it had crumbled down and now he was trying to pick up the pieces. The third Hokage looked at Jiraiya with a slight glare. Don't act like a child, Jiraiya-kun, he stated before looking back at Mei with a small smile. Please take a seat. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Mei said. And thanks for taking your time to see me. I wasn't sure you'd be willing to talk to me. Don't worry about it, the third said, smiling. Terumi Mei, leader of the rebel faction in Kiri's civil war. That is about right. Jiraiya-kun, Sanin's intel was always reliable. He was just asking for the sake of it. Yes, Jiraiya said with a nod. Mei wasn't surprised. Kiri may be in lockdown because of the war, but some shinobi were truly capable of making the impossible possible. Forgive me, but I'm going to be blunt. Granted, you already know who I am, I can safely say you know what it is that I came here for. The Sandame nodded. You don't mind if I smoke, do you? He was already lighting up his pipe when he asked. Mei was tempted to say she does mind, but held it back. You require Konoha's assistance in the civil war that has crippled Kiri's resources. Mei nodded. Why Konoha, exactly? Jiraiya asked. The Yondaime Raikage wouldn't agree to it without making some outrageous demands. Suna isn't in a position to help, and well, Iwagakure would rather colonize Kiri than help us. Konohagakure boasts the finest shinobi and is the strongest of the Great Five. Aside from that, the Sandame has been a long preacher of peace. So because I preach peace, you believe I am the easiest to recruit to assist you and wouldn't even make an outrageous demand like other nations, huh? The Sandame said, puffing out some smoke. It sounded a bit bad when he put it like that. I don't mean it like that exactly, Mei tried to explain herself. The Sandame merely chuckled, waving her off. I understand what you mean, he said before he put away his pipe. His expression turned serious as he leaned against his chair. Speak, he said. Mei knew what the old man was saying, and this was the hardest part. Honestly, I have nothing to offer as it stands. We have been making progress against Yagura's forces, but our enemy remains the Mizukage. Meaning he controlled most things. However, I do believe that we will win the war. We just need some reinforcements for the final battle. When we win, we'll take over Kiri and start rebuilding it. Then, we can compensate you. You'll also gain an ally who'll never betray you. So basically you have nothing but promises without any evidence of it ever being fulfilled. This is the shinobi world. Signed treaties are nothing more than just pieces of papers. What value do mere words hold, if one can even deny ever saying them? Sandame asked. Mei frowned. She hadn't expected the old man to jump into the opportunity to assist her, but she'd thought he would do a bit easy, given his reputation. I know, but I'm willing to go through a blood oath to prove that I will come through to my promise. The Sandame just stared at Mei for a couple of moments. The woman couldn't even begin to guess what it was that was going inside his head. His mask was unreadable. How desperate are you? Excuse me. You came here with nothing but words, yet still expect me to risk the lives of my shinobi to help you. I just believe that there are still some good people in this world. It may be corrupted to the core, but a part of me believes that not everyone is bad. Do you think I'm wrong to have such hopes, Hokage-sama? Sandame smiled as he spoke. Not at all, he said. His serious mask returned. Tell me about the current Mizukage. What is wrong with him? I know this may sound as an accusation to the Uchiha clan, but we believe without a doubt that Yagura is being manipulated by a powerful genjutsu, one that can only be cast by the Sharingan, Mei said. I see, the third said. It may not look like it, but this piece of information was truly important to him. How did you come up with that conclusion, Mei-san? I'm afraid I can't tell you that. She couldn't tell them that one of her men had one of Konoha's coveted dujutsu. Can't or don't want to. This man wasn't making it easy for her. Well, they didn't call him the professor for nothing. It is a secret that we hold in our ranks. I'm sure you have things in your own ranks that you'd like to keep hidden. Yes, but when I'm trying to get someone to help me, without anything to offer, I divulge whatever I can, the Sandaime said. Jiraiya just settled for watching his sensei work. The old man was really good with this kind of thing. It appears that I was wrong to come here. With how this is going, it doesn't seem like I will get any help since I have nothing to offer. Who had she been kidding? No one gave anything for free, not in this cruel world of shinobi. There were always strings attached to every deal. Nothing was for free. That is how it seems, Sandaime said. Mei nodded. Thank you for your time, she said, ready to leave. But not how it is, the third said before adding. I never said I wouldn't offer my assistant. So, settle down. Tell me, what do you think would happen, say if Onoki hears that I'm assisting you in the war and sends his own shinobi to assist Yagura? Mei frowned. Konoha and Iwa will end up fighting. Possibly reopen old war wounds. I don't need to tell you how badly that will affect us if we end up being dragged into war, having just recently recovered from the Kyuubi's rampage 7 years ago. Mei's frown deepened. If that happened, she wouldn't be able to help out in the ensuing war. I understand, she said. He was saying he really wants to help, but the risks were far too great. Every leader had to think for his own people. Sandaime's responsibility wasn't to her people but to Konoha. I'm glad you understand, Sandaime said, smiling. How long do you think this final battle will last? Mei was stunned. A week or two. You think you're up to the challenge, Jiraiya-kun? The Toad Sage nodded with a smile. I don't have any complaints as long as I get to stare at her mesmerizing beauty. The third chuckled slightly. Good, he said. You have yourself my assistance, Mei-san. Mei was still stunned. He was not only going to offer her his help, he was going to send his strongest shinobi. She would have been grateful if he'd just given her some fringe shinobi. But Asanin, this was just a miracle. She couldn't help but smile and heap praise to her gut for telling her to come to this village. Thank you, Sandaime-sama. I didn't expect this. Don't thank me yet, Sarutobi said. Return to Konoha when you have ended Yagura's blood rain. That will be the first thing I do. I hope so, the third said. Would you rather rest or do you wish to leave now? My men can fetch the two you left outside the village. Mei showed no physical reaction to this revelation. The two she left were supposed to be hidden, but apparently Sandaime has great eyes. I have to return to camp right away. It will be dangerous if Yagura becomes aware of my absence. Understandable, the Sandaime said. Jiraiya will catch up to you with the others before you reach sea. Mei nodded and gave her thanks again before leaving. The Sandaime didn't escort her out as it would raise suspicion and he wanted to get this done without too much noise about it. Once Mei was gone, Jiraiya looked at his sensei. You're not thinking of doing that, are you, sensei? The third merely smiled. Do you think this could be the same Uchiha as the one responsible for the Kyuubi's attack? We still don't know if it is really the Sharingan that is manipulating Yagura. Yes. It will be best if Itachi-kun tags along. His Mangekyo Sharingan should be enough to discern that. If he gets something good, then we may take another step into unmasking this Uchiha. Jiraiya nodded in agreement. A few moments of silence settled in before the Toad Sage spoke once more. Sensei, his tone was low, you get along with the Gaki, does he hate me? The third sighed. You're going to have to speak to him eventually. If you're not going to break the ice, Naruto won't bother. Now, I raised you when you were just a brat, Jiraiya-kun. You have grown up now. You raised Minato well. This is something that I cannot help you with. However, I can tell you this. While on this secret mission, speak to Itachi-kun, he understands Naruto-kun. 2 hours later, Danzo walked into the Sandame's office with a scowl on his face. He clearly didn't like being ordered by Hiruzen. Why did you call me, Hiruzen? Now Danzo, there is no need for such animosity. I did allow you to live after you attempted to get me killed, the third said before getting into the business at hand. I have a mission for your route. What? Danzo asked, with narrowed eyes. Kiri's civil war. You're to send your route Anbu to fight with the rebels against Yagura's forces. Send them tomorrow morning. I believe you already know the way, you have been keeping tabs on the situation, no. The following day, just beside his favorite tree at the park, Ino sat, legs pressed across her chest. When this image registered in his mind, Naruto did nothing but frown as he walked up to her. He didn't want to be here in the first place, he was only here because her mother had asked him to fetch the girl as it was getting late and she wanted to close up the flower shop and return home. He would have said no, but his mother had been there, giving him that look that clearly told him to do what was requested of him or there would be consequences. The girl looked sad, and that was something he didn't want to deal with. He had his own problems. Sighing, Naruto sat down beside his fellow blonde. Just so you know, I don't care, he said before adding. I'm just going to ask because if I ignore you, my mother is going to find out and she won't be happy, or you may just use it against me. Always treat a girl well, Naru-chan, his mother always tells him. He knew she wouldn't smile at him and say you did well if he just ignored a child of a friend in this kind of situation, especially a girl. He didn't understand it. But sometimes his mother would just say he doesn't have to understand but do as he was told and he would eventually understand when he does grow up. He was all grown up at this stage, what was there to understand when he was advanced in age? You're cold, Ino said softly. But then again, sometimes she did appreciate his honesty. He didn't lie to her, he was always truthful. Even though he was only forced because of his mother's compulsion, he was still doing it and she thanked him for that. Naruto merely shrugged indifferently, what is wrong? Sakura. That pink-haired girl you saved a few weeks ago. She registered with the academy and is now in my class. Her father seems to have pulled some strings to get her in. That is not the problem though, we both like Sasuke-kun and decided to terminate our friendship to pursue him. And this makes you, what was the right word, again? Sad. Ino nodded, yes. I liked our friendship but now we have become rivals, always throwing insults at each other. Sakura has also made new friends. Naruto sighed. His mother must truly hate him to make him go through such things. What are 7-year-olds doing chasing after Sasuke? What do you even mean you like him? You know how a boy likes a girl, Ino tried explaining. No, I don't know, Naruto said. Ino sighed, yeah, you wouldn't. The only person Naruto likes is his mother, she said. So, you really like Sasuke, and this Sakura does as well. Both of you are fighting for his affection, he would really kill someone if he had to compete with them over his mother's affection. This has something to do with what adults call love, but you're just 7. You shouldn't be too worried about such things. It could hardly be called love between 7-year-olds, but he wasn't going to point that out. Says the guy who already has a fiancé. You're not supposed to talk about such things, Ino. Naruto said. How the girl had even got hold of it was beyond him. He wouldn't tell her such things and his mother wouldn't either. Perhaps she had walked into their mothers while they were talking about it. Sorry. Does Sasuke share this crush of yours? Ino frowned slightly, but that was all the answer Naruto needed. My thoughts. Get over your stupid crush or destroy your friendship with that girl. What if by some great miracle, Itachi compels Sasuke to tell Sakura that he likes her better? Ino's frown deepened, it would take a miracle because Sasuke-kun likes me. Keep telling yourself that, Naruto wanted to say, but the girl would probably tell his mother that he was mean to her. Come on, let's go, he stood and helped her up. Whether a solution was reached or not did not matter. Sunagaku. As soon as the Sandame, Kushina and Naruto made it to the gates of the village hidden in sand, they were greeted by a squad of Anbu. The third had his own Anbu as his guards, just hidden somewhere Naruto couldn't begin to sense. The way towards the village had been rather short as Hiruzen wanted to return to Konoha as quickly as he could. In his mind, he couldn't leave the village for too long when he had made enemies with that snake, Danzo. The War Hawk would probably choose to dethrone him in his absence. It was unlikely as he had made sure the root commander sent his root away to Kiri, but it was still a possibility. Hokage-sama, the leader of the Anbu squad said, walking over to the Sandame, please allow us to take you straight to the Cage Tower. Yondaime-sama has instructed us to do so. The third smiled, would it be a problem if we walked? I wish to breathe in some fresh air before my meeting with the Cage. The journey has been a little long, I'm sure Naruto-kun would like to see the change in scenery once again. Anbu didn't need to think about the matter to offer his response. He merely nodded, we will escort you then. The professor nodded, would it be okay if my Anbu take a friendly round about the village? As long as they keep it friendly, there shouldn't be any problem, Hokage-sama. The third Hokage looked to his right, Naruto being held by his mother with her right hand. Let's go, you two, he said. Is it just me? Is the weather different from when we were in the desert? Kushina asked as they slowly walked through the streets of Suna, heading towards the Cage Tower with the Anbu behind them. It is different, Sarutobi said. The heat isn't as bad as people make it seem. The journey across the desert isn't that bad itself, it is only bad during the windy seasons. Kushina nodded, she didn't need to be told that. She already knew that crossing the desert during the windy season was nothing more than to taunt death. She looked at her son, I'm so proud of you. You were able to make it to the village without having me to carry you across the desert. Your training is really paying off. Naruto smiled at his mother, thank you, he said. There was the fact that the last time he'd come to this village had been his first and, despite being told to prepare for what was ahead, he didn't think it would be so bad. But now he was able to move on his own and knew what to expect. Anything less would have been disappointing, the Sandame said, butting into the conversation. Naruto got training from 4 different people, his mother included. Well, children of cages always received the best training they could get from their villages. Minato may be dead, but he was Naruto's father and nothing would change that. Kushina nodded before smiling, all the better when we return home because he will be starting the academy, she said. Just the thought of her son, strong enough to protect himself against bullies, having some friends of his own, it really made her happy. Perhaps then her son could get the childhood he so deserved. It wasn't too late for him, he was just 7 after all. Naruto wanted to frown, but he couldn't, not when his mother seemed happy. It was one of those moments that he had to suppress a sarcastic remark about his predicament. His mother was happy that he was going to the academy and may possibly make friends. He should be as well. He could well remember how his mother had picked him up grinning like a fool when he spoke to her about the academy. He'd never seen her so happy and relieved. It was one of those days she would be even willing to let him stay up all night watching TV, if he did that kind of thing. It really meant a lot to her. So he had to push on for her happiness. Don't worry too much about it, Naruto-kun, Sandame said. I'll arrange that you be put into a class with the clan heirs. They are smart, Ino-chan is an example. Who knows, you may even get along with Sasuke-kun while competing for academy honors. I doubt it, Naruto said. If I become a competition, Sasuke is likely to see me as a threat. Kushina patted Naruto on the back, where is your optimism, Naru-chan? She asked a bit loudly. What did I tell you? Never say never, Naruto recited those words his mother had beaten into him until he could dream them. That's the spirit, Kushina said with a nod of her head. Looks like we've finally reached the tower, Sandame said, looking at the Cage Tower. The walk had been pleasant and a good way to kill some time. The leader of the Suna Anbu cleared his throat to catch the attention of the Hokage and those with him. Is he going to sit in as well? He asked, referring to Naruto. The third shook his head, no. Not this time, he said. I will take him to the Cage's home then, one of the Anbu said, to which Hiruzen nodded. Kushina looked at her son, do you still remember what I told you? Naruto nodded. And, what did I say again? Smile, Naruto said, giving his mother a warm smile. Good, now go be a good boy and don't do anything that will give your mother a heart attack, Kushina said. Mother, what would I do that would give you a heart attack? Kushina shrugged, well, you spend some time with him, she said, her left shoulder pointing towards Sandaime. He's like Jiraiya, but he just does it in a closet. Who knows if he's read you that smut, the red-haired sent the Sandaime a threatening glare, warning him. Now, Kushina-chan, I'm a responsible adult and wouldn't hope to dilute Naruto-kun's mind. Keep it that way, Kushina said. After Naruto was taken away, she returned to normal, come on, let us get this over with. I really hate formal meetings though. Cage residence. Naruto had the decency to raise a brow when he saw Temari. She wore a black kimono that fitted her perfectly, no lipsticks, just her pure face. The last time he'd come here, she looked normal. This time she looked as though she was preparing for a ceremonial festival. Good impressions. Maybe. Naruto smiled for 2 reasons. 1, his mother. 2, both her and him were in a situation that none chose, and he could share some sympathy with her like he does with Itachi. Both he and the Uchiha shared a mindset, protect what is important to their hearts no matter the cost. The only difference was that the precious things to their hearts were different. But both worked zealously for the love, and so they had something in common. Naruto, Temari greeted the blonde with a somewhat forced smile. Temari, Naruto said, you look nice, he added as the girl walked him towards the living room. His mother has always told him, always compliment a girl if you want to get in her good books. Thank you, Temari said. She wanted to be polite and return the favor, but the blonde didn't bother to be formal. He just looked normal. But then again, even his mother wore casual clothing the last time she was here. Like mother like son, so it appears. A thought clicked in her mind that forced her to change directions. You must be hungry from your journey. Food is prepared, how could she have forgotten that? Perhaps this situation made her, uncomfortable. Naruto frowned slightly. He had no choice but to accept. Sure, he said. The dining room was spacious, but there was nothing more than a large table and chairs inside it. The food was prepared as she'd said. After settling down, Naruto looked at Temari. They made you wear that kimono. It wasn't a question, but a statement. Yeah, Temari said. Her father had been insistent that she looked good for Naruto. Obviously, her father was more concerned about the kind of benefit this relationship will do for Sunagaku. Her father always thought of the village and its future. With this contract, he'd secured Suna's future, and he wasn't going to do anything to jeopardize it. Not unless something more valuable came up. Temari knew that Naruto was the only child of Konoha's Yellow Flash. As far as she was concerned, only her father and his trusted advisor, Baki, knew this secret. The council didn't even know of the contract. She guessed it was only a matter of time before they caught the wind of it. Next time don't wear it. If anybody says otherwise, tell them Uzumaki. Naruto says, I look fine just as I am, Naruto said with a small smile. Temari didn't force a smile this time, she gave Naruto a true warm smile. Thanks, she truly appreciated the gesture. She didn't hate Naruto because of this, he was nice to her, and the last time he had been very honest with her. How relieved had she been? She was expecting someone older who would be trying tricks on her, but she had been surprised to see someone younger. Itadakimasu, both said as they prepared to eat their meal. How are you calm about this whole thing? Temari asked. Even last time he looked so calm and relaxed, despite it being their first meeting. My mother was thinking about my well-being when she agreed to it, Naruto said. I can't say the same about my father, Temari said bitterly. We are in this situation. Either we learn to live with it or remain bitter about it. I would rather choose the former, though. I'm still 7 years old, there is still much time to grow around the issue, don't you think? Temari didn't need to think about it to give a nod. Still, Despite saying those words, Naruto had been told by Kakashi that there was a high chance that he may just end up not being with Temari. The agreement between Suna and Konoha was between the current cages. Should another cage take over before they are even married, the cage was within his right to declare it void. Since the agreement wasn't public, it was easy for either nation to pull out without fearing a backlash. Besides, the only reason the adults wanted them to know each other now was so that they could develop some bond, as his mother had forced another fine print that clearly said, should Uzumaki Naruto be unwilling or having not developed any feelings for Sabaku no Temari, he has the power to say no to the marriage. Still, he would have to pay a hefty fee and offer some sealing scrolls to be allowed to get out of the marriage. Temari wasn't told of this. And his mother had told him to give it his all. For his own sanity and crumbling hope in humans, he was trying. 2 days later. Moments like these, he really dreaded. Sandaime has tried by all means to make things comfortable for the Uchiha clan just as he has tried with Naruto. But it just seems like all his efforts have been without rewards. He has not been completely useless as Konoha's third Hokage. Not by any means, but there were things that were happening around Konoha that seemed to be beyond his reach and control. He really wished that Minato was present at this time. Between the two of them, they could figure things out. He was old. He no longer possessed the influence he once had when he was still sharp, physically. The Uchiha knew of this. From an undecided Hokage, he learned to decide things for himself. He learned to take the decisions that he wouldn't normally take. This had been forced upon him by the death of Minato and the consequences that followed. Iwagakure had tried sending spies to check on the village's power to see if it could try something, but Danzo had stepped in and dealt with the threats. He was thankful for the War Hawk, a reason he still kept him despite the man having once tried to take his life by attempting to poison Kakashi against him. Naruto was another issue that forced him to step up. He couldn't allow things to get out of hand, lest he wished to live with regrets for the rest of his life. The blonde was a hero in his eyes and he treated him as such. He couldn't force the villagers to offer the same thoughts, but he had ensured that none took their frustrations off the boy. This is a case where he had constantly reminded the villagers that he wasn't called the god of shinobi for nothing. The Sandaime Hokage leaned back to his chair, trying by all means to appear strong in the front of Uchiha Fugaku, the head of the Uchiha clan and Konoha's military police force. There was trouble between Konoha as a whole and the Uchiha clan. Trouble that could spell disaster if not handled in a careful manner. I hope you kept things tidy in the village while I was away, the Sandaime started calmly. Naturally, Uchiha Fugaku simply said. My son has been out of the village for a number of days. I usually don't question Anbu missions, but I feel that he was taken away hastily as he'd told me he had no upcoming missions, and his squad mates remain in the village. Itachi-kun has gone on a secret mission with Jiraiya, the third said calmly. You know that I don't believe for a second that your clan had nothing to do with the Kyuubi attack, right? He'd already told the man what he thought, but it didn't stop him from saying it whenever he got the chance. Fugaku gave a subtle nod. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the villagers and the clan heads. His tone was cold, no hatred dripping from it, just silently cold. That is indeed unfortunate, Sandaime said. Despite many assurances to the villagers that your clan had nothing to do with it, they won't believe otherwise. They are hell-bent on blaming someone just as they refuse to accept Naruto-kun. I only wonder what they will do if they learn that an Uchiha or at least the Sharingan had manipulated the Kyuubi. Where is this going, Hokage-sama? They'd already been through this and he would rather deal with clan matters than go through this again. Your son has gone on a mission in Kurigakure. We're told that the Yondaime Mizukage is being controlled by a powerful genjutsu. Fugaku took a few moments to digest those words. So you believe that if this is true, then it may be the same Uchiha who manipulated the Kyuubi? Yes, Sarutobi said. If this happens to be true, Itachi-kun may be able to figure out the identity of this person. With that, we may be able to hunt down the culprit and bring him to justice. Perhaps then we will be able to stop the madness going around the village. That wouldn't solve the Uchiha's problems. Their problems went far beyond the borders of being untrusted by the villagers. They were pushed away from the village. They no longer had any political power despite operating the police force. That was a matter that needed to be resolved. Feigaku doubted anything would be solved unless they took action though. Things with the villagers have already gone past the line of return. Is that all? The third nodded. Can you organize a meeting between your clan elders so we can sit once more again and think of a way to deal with the impending issue? I will see if they are willing. No guarantees given, and the Uchiha clan leader disappeared from the office. This doesn't look good at all, the third said to himself. He could only hope Itachi will bring home some good news. He could only hope. Evening, later that day. Kakashi smiled fondly looking at Kushina through the window from outside where he sat along with Naruto. This reminds me of the time Minato-sensei had me watch over your mother when she was still carrying you. I used to watch her all day long. So mother tells me. Naruto responded, flipping a page on the book he was reading. Kakashi sighed. How was your visit in Sunagaku? Surprisingly pleasant, Naruto said. Kakashi gave the blonde a creepy eye smile. Oh, did you and Temari get to know each other well enough? The tone the Jonin used was enough for Naruto to leave his book and look up to him. Jonin was suggesting something he couldn't quite figure out. Before he could say anything, his mother's voice burst through the open kitchen window. Kakashi, what are you telling my son? She shouted. Kakashi smiled nervously. Well, he chuckled nervously. The woman could climb out of the window and give him a chase if he gave the wrong answer. How she had known what he was thinking was a mystery he could never puzzle together. I was just asking how things went in Sunagaku. Kushina gave the man a long stare. You better, she said. Because I swear Kakashi, if you fill my son with lewd things, I will tear off that mask, burn your book collection and make you wear guy's jumpsuit for a month. Do you understand me, Kakashi? Yes, ma'am. Kakashi gave a stiff salute. He was even barred from reading his precious Chan in front of Naruto. Not even the Sandaime could take out his copy when Naruto was present. Kushina smiled pleasantly. Good, she closed the door and went back to her cooking. No wonder Minato-sensei always feared going home when he knew he'd done something she wouldn't like, Kakashi said to himself. He looked back at Naruto. Did you meet her siblings? No, Naruto said with a shake of his head. I met them last time. It was just me and Temari this time. Besides, we didn't stay for too long as Gigi said it wasn't safe to leave the village for too long. Kakashi nodded. When are you going to see her again? He wanted to be there so that he could spy on them. He was really interested in how Naruto was handling things. Yes, they were just kids. But, he trailed off when he realized that Kushina might just jump out of the window. I don't know, Naruto said, closing his book. He sighed, went silent for a few moments. Looks like I'll be joining the academy. That's wonderful Naruto, Kakashi said with a smile. I wish I could walk you on your first day, but I'll be leaving early tomorrow morning for a mission. That is fine, Naruto said. Still, Itachi isn't here, you're going away, I'm going to be in the academy. I sense that my training will become hindered. Don't worry about it, Kakashi said. He took out a scroll from his vest and threw it at Naruto, who caught it. The Sandaime told me he told you that you had to do chakra control exercises. He'd given me that scroll on methods I should teach you, but I have this mission. So read through it and when I return, we'll pick up from there. Thanks, Naruto said. Don't worry about it, Kakashi said with another smile. The following day. Notebook, check. Lunch, check. Kushina did her checklist as she looked through Naruto's backpack. Do you need chips? Or should I just bring you ramen during lunchtime? Naruto sighed. His mother was way over the moon by this situation. He doubted she even slept at night because of the excitement that was rushing through her blood. It was as though she was the one going to the academy, not him. Everything is in there, Okawa-san. I don't want you to miss anything on your first day. You have to impress the other kids today, Kushina said. Did you ask Ino-chan if there was homework? Mother, it is my first day. I don't have to write homework. And Ino doesn't know I'm going to be joining her class today, Naruto said, taking his school bag from his mother's hands. The crimson scarf she'd bought for him the other day placed safely around his neck. Kushina-chan, Mikoto shouted outside their house. Oh, Sasu-chan's mom is here. Come on dear, let's go, Kushina said, literally dragging her son out. Naruto didn't mind, it was his mother after all. Hello, Mikoto-chan, Sasu-chan, the red-haired Uzumaki greeted the two Uchihas. You look bright as always, Sasu. She added, pinching the boy on the cheek. Sasuke reddened a bit, while smiling at Kushina. You look full of life as always, the boy said. Mikoto looked at Naruto, offered him a smile. Well, this is my surprise, she said. I don't consider it as such, Naruto said. When the surprise come, you'll be shocked. Can't wait, the retired Jonin looked at Kushina. Let's go. We don't want to be late. Sasuke, Naruto grunted, taking the front with the Uchiha while the mothers walked behind, engaged in mother talks. Naruto, Sasuke responded with a grunt of his own. What changed? Oh, he was happy with the situation. With the blonde in the academy, he won't have to be worrying about him spending valuable time with Itachi, when that brother of his was not doing any missions. Nothing much, Naruto responded with a shrug. You look excited. I can finally get one over you. We're currently tied 1-1. You beat me with shuriken throwing while I did better with the fireball jutsu. He always did best, he was the best in the academy. Naruto couldn't unseat him, not when he could do something about it. You're keeping score. Naruto looked at the Uchiha from the corner of his eye. He wanted to remind the Uchiha that he humiliated him the last time they sparred in taijutsu. But if the Uchiha was suffering from selective memory loss, then he wasn't going to remind him. No, Sasuke said. He said nothing further as they silently made their way towards the academy. When they finally reached the academy gates, Kushina knelt down and placed her hands on Naruto's shoulders. Now go on and make your mother proud, okay? I want you to get good grades and not sleep in class. If anyone tries anything, either student or teacher, call me and I will be there to straighten that person out, okay? Yes, mother. Good, Kushina said, placing a tender kiss on the blonde's forehead. She looked at Sasuke. Show him around, will you? Sasuke nodded. Let's go, the Uchiha said to Naruto, who looked at his mother for a full minute, unmoving before he finally relented and followed Sasuke. Watching the boys leave, Kushina spoke. I say my son is the best and he will graduate top of his class. Mikoto shook her head. I do agree Naruto is smart, but my Sasuke-kun is a genius. He takes after his older brother. Are you willing to put a bet on it? Academy. Oh no, Ino moaned, staring at the entrance of the class. Naruto had just walked in with Sasuke. This was not happening, not to her. How was she going to handle this mess? She definitely has to choose between the two of them. Naruto wouldn't be liked by the fangirls if he stayed close to Sasuke, and she wouldn't be able to do anything to stop them from insulting her Black Knight. Her mother would expect her to hang around the blonde. He has bailed her out on a few occasions. It didn't matter that he did it with little care. The effort was what mattered. Besides, she knew he cared a little. He just wouldn't admit it as it would be like betraying his mother. Ino just watched the two boys. Sasuke chose to sit in the front row, but Naruto wasn't going to do any of that. He just looked at Ino, who was staring at him. Surprise, no emotion in his voice. Are you lost? Ino asked. Ruruka didn't tell them they would be having a new student today. He had to be lost. She couldn't have him here. It would ruin things for her as she would have to offer some of her time to him. After all, she couldn't leave her Black Knight alone. Is this Immuno Uruka's class? Yes. Then no. I'm not lost, Naruto said. Why? Why are you trying to ruin my perfect academy life? Naruto blinked a couple of times before sighing. You're not obligated to spend time with me, Ino. Of course I am. Naruto just shook his head and went up to the back of the class. He took a seat on the top left corner, and ignored everyone else who was staring at him. The looks weren't of hatred, just curiosity. Understandable since he was joining a class that has already covered more ground. He should be in a lower class, but the Sandaime thought this to be best for him as it had his peers. Once the Chunin teacher walked into the class, the question popped up, "Uruka-sensei, who's the blonde?" A boy asked, pointing at Naruto who looked as though he was in a faraway world. Uruka looked at Naruto, stared for a few moments before responding. "That is Uzumaki Naruto. He will be attending with us from today. Isn't that unfair?" Another kid asked. "He was recommended by the Sandaime Hokage," Uruka merely said, not bothering to go into detail. Saying he was recommended by the Sandaime would stop any questions, but at the same time, it would give the idea that Naruto was receiving special treatment from the Hokage. Oh well, it didn't matter since he didn't care. Today, we will focus on. After 3 hours of complete waste of his valuable time, Naruto had been justified in his reservations about the academy being useless. "Mother must truly hate me for forcing me to go through this," the blonde said to himself. "I hear you," a somewhat tired voice said, just in front of Naruto. The boy who'd spoken turned slightly to face Naruto. "If I ditch, my mother will drag me here by force." Naruto nodded. His mother would do something like that. "I can see that happening. A less troublesome way to get through this is to sleep during class," the boy said, turning away once more. "Off to more sleep." Uruka cut in an irritated figure with some frustrations leaking out of his ears in a cloud of smoke. His eyes were fixed to the menace that was in his class. A menace he was forced in his every day of life at the academy to teach. Not that the boy ever paid him any attention when he spoke. He'd thought he would be relieved if the boy wasn't taking any interest in his lectures, but it annoyed the crap out of him whenever the blonde spotted that look of pure indifference. There was even a day he had been tempted to run up to the boy and drag him out of his class, by his hair. The thought had been crushed instantly when he thought of who birthed the boy. The mother would certainly kill him. Literally. No doubt about that. Uzumaki Naruto. Uruka couldn't even begin to remember the day the blonde had so even paid attention to his class. From day 2, the blonde had always put on a look of indifference, never taking part in anything. As much as Uruka wanted to throw the blonde out of the class, he couldn't do that. Not without a noteworthy reason. It would get him in trouble with the Sandaime. Not to mention that woman who would snap his neck in a mother fury. Uruka could remember the day he'd made a surprise test just to fail the blonde. Imagine his surprise, when the little irritation who didn't pay attention to his classes, managed to pass his test. Even though half of the class failed because the test was a difficult surprise test that wasn't meant to be passed by everyone. Loath as he may to admit, Naruto wasn't stupid, he was smart. It had pissed him to no end when the blonde had so graciously offered to set the test for him to make them a little difficult. That wasn't all. There had been a day he had caught the blonde looking outside the window. Not listening to him, he had inwardly smirked at the thought that came to his mind. Imagine to his utter dismay when the blonde had not even stuttered or even looked red-handed at being caught gazing outside the class. The blonde had so simply said, "I can't repeat what you said because I wasn't listening." Uruka had been left flabbergasted by the response. Normally a student would try to initiate something that he didn't say or try to make an excuse. But the blonde didn't try anything. He stated the situation as it was. No attempt to hide the truth. The blonde had made it clear to him that he was only in the academy because his mother had forced him and the Sandaime was blackmailing him to do so. To show how useless the academy was to him, the blonde had gone as far as to say he could do the graduate exam as he was, despite being in the academy for just 2 weeks. If Uruka had his way around everything, he would have just given the blonde the damn exam just so he could get out of his sight. Some teachers could just ignore him and the blonde would indifferently return the favor. But that was something that Uruka couldn't do. No matter how hard he tried. The other teachers have tried all tricks to get the blonde to be held back in his academics, but that was useless since he already knew what they taught. When it came to knowledge, the blonde had it in abundance. He had even found it bitterly amusing when one of the teachers came back to the staff room grumbling after he'd gotten into an argument with Naruto over the history of Konoha. It turned out that the blonde knew more about it than the teacher. Haruka sighed, and settled on the edge of his desk, looking at his students. No one was absent today, which was good. He didn't feel like teaching anything. Well, since they haven't been in the training grounds for some taijutsu demonstration, he decided it was best to take them there. Okay class, settle down, Haruka said a bit loudly. Nobody heard the chunin, or they just chose to ignore him in favor of continuing with the chatter. If Haruka hadn't become used to this familiar occurrence, a vein would have been throbbing on the side of his forehead right about now. Shut up. That touched the right spot. No matter how many times his loud voice did the trick, Haruka couldn't help but smile in appreciation of his kid's silencing jutsu. He always felt content and would smile happily when the jutsu did work its magic to quiet down the little ones. It was a pity to Mizuki though. The chunin couldn't do a better job than he did. Then again, Mizuki was just his assistant. Naturally, he should be the one getting things done quickly. We'll be going to the training ground today for an exhibition on the Academy Taijutsu Mizuki has taught you, the chunin said. His announcement was welcomed with smiles by the students who would have anything other than his so-called boring classes. Yeah right. Haruka knew they loved him despite calling his classes boring. They just liked going out there as it was a place they could talk however they wished and they could also watch their beloved Uchiha beat up someone. Haruka failed miserably to suppress the urge to frown when he met Naruto's eyes head-on after his announcement. The look was still indifferent, the eyes still blank of any emotion, as most of the time. It really frustrated the chunin that he could never read the blonde because he always hid everything behind that untouchable mask of indifference. You're in trouble, Shikamaru muttered to Naruto, seeing the look their sensei was giving the blonde. While he didn't seem like he was interested, he knew full well that Naruto and their sensei had a rather rocky relationship, if their interactions could be considered a relationship. Haruka held something against the blonde. He was certain of this. But Naruto didn't seem to care. No, he just didn't care. Furthermore, he paid no mind to whatever Haruka had to say, and was willing to go as far as to brush off the chunin. Naturally, that made the chunin infuriated with the blonde. It appears so, Naruto said. I do wonder what sort of trick he has planned for me this time. Probably going to get you matched with the best in taijutsu, Shikamaru said. If Naruto could get beat, it would embarrass him and force him to pay attention to class a bit. At least that is what he thought Haruka had in mind. It would also be some payback for the many times Naruto has had the class laughing at the chunin. Haruka had it better though. The other teachers. Shikamaru shook his head. How he pitied them. Naruto was just downright blunt in his assessment of the academy and its education. He made no attempt whatsoever to mask his disdain over the curriculum offered. The fact that they taught simple taijutsu and offered no real training on the expectations of the shinobi world did no better. Shikamaru could concur with the blonde on that note. His father does tell him bits about the shinobi world and he knew academy teachings offered little comfort for what was out there in the wild. The ones who suffered the most were non-clan children, and those from not-so-shinobi families. Shikamaru didn't have to suffer because his father made him train his mind at home. He was learning clan techniques, so were other children from clans. The others weren't getting any training whatsoever and they continued to look towards the day they become shinobi with false expectations and blind hopes. Just thinking about it made the Nara heir sigh. Naruto snorted upon hearing Shikamaru's response. Like hell anyone in the academy could embarrass him. From what he has gathered so far, Sasuke was the top dog in the field. He knew the Uchiha better than anyone. Sasuke may be better than him executing that damned fire jutsu, the Uchiha has never beaten him in taijutsu, even when he does go easy on the boy, just so as not to wound his pride too much that it will earn him a Sharingan enemy. I don't have any interest in participating in anything. But I guess I won't have a choice if I'm forced, Naruto said. His eyes narrowed at the Nara heir. An idiot. Not the least. Nara was smart, even more so than Sasuke. Naruto doubted he could win against Nara in a battle of intellect. The only problem was that Nara made no effort. He made no effort in anything whatsoever. Naruto believed the only time Nara would get serious would be in life-threatening situations. He will force you, Shikamaru said. At this stage, Choji decided to partake in the conversation. You should try to get along with Iruka-sensei. That will make your life a lot easier. You won't have to worry about him trying to trip you over. At least we don't have to worry about teachers because we won't be seeing much of them from next year. You just have to survive this year. I doubt we are ever going to hug and kiss, Naruto said. If I survive this year without suffocation by this environment, I will consider it an accomplishment. He suppressed the urge to frown from the knowledge that there were still a number of months before the year ends. It's not so bad, Naruto, Choji said with a smile. You just have to loosen up a bit and you'll enjoy it as much as I do. That said, Choji felt a sudden urge to fill up his crying gut with some chips. Are you guys just going to sit there, or are we going to follow the others? Kiba's voice sounded, breaking the three out of their little ice. You seem a little happy. Feeling your luck against Sasuke, today? Choji asked, looking at the Inuzuka heir as he got up along with Naruto and Shikamaru. Yeah, I have been training really hard since my last match up with that bastard, Kiba responded with all the confidence he could muster. Choji doubted it would make any difference and Sasuke was anything but a bastard. The term just came to mind because Kiba was just an idiot before Sasuke's eyes. He couldn't fault the Uchiha for having such thoughts. It was improbable that the Inuzuka would do something genius in front of the Uchiha. Not when he lost the little rationality his mind has when he is one-on-one with the Uchiha. I hope you do well if Iruka picks you, Choji said. Kiba just grinned. He knew he was going to do well and then all the girls would follow him instead of that arrogant idiot. He could almost see himself happily suffocating in the warm hugs and kisses the girls would be giving him. Shikamaru wanted to keep his mouth shut as opening it would cause a troublesome dialogue with the Inuzuka, but he couldn't help himself. Don't dream too much, he said lightly, having noticed Kiba's dreamy look. Kiba scoffed. Shikamaru was incapable of doing what he could. Who was he to tell him anything? He looked at Naruto in the corner of his left eye, as opposed to responding to Shikamaru's light warning. Though Naruto could feel the look from the eyes of the brash and arrogant Inuzuka heir, he didn't bother to react to it. In his days being in the academy, there were some people that he would rather not befriend, especially stupid people. His mother may not agree, but what Kushina didn't know wouldn't hurt her. It may have wounded him a bit, but all reasons pointed out that he was justified in his decision and that made him feel good. Shikamaru and Choji were alright. They didn't bother with stupid questions. In fact, he could relax with the former while reading his book and the Nara heir lost in the mystery of the clouds above him. That was the perfect friendship. The conversations did carry some weight, and much more worthwhile than discussing which girl was hottest in their class with Kiba and other idiots in the academy. Although Kiba has been tempted to call Naruto an idiot on a couple of occasions, he knew better. The blonde gave the genius of their class a run for his money. Still, that didn't make him like the blonde. He carried him above others, almost like he was their superior or something. Well, at least he had something to poke fun about with the blonde. He wasn't going to start it now. The four reached the training grounds at the academy, with the others already waiting. No need to be at the front to hear whatever that Iruka had to say. The four chose to stay at the back, wondering about their own business as Iruka started with his prepared short speech. Okay guys, today we are going to do some demonstrations. I want to see if you have grasped the stances you have been taught. You are gonna have to execute the stances in a fight, Iruka said. First up, I want two girls to volunteer. The lively Ino Yamanaka was quick to take center stage. Another girl followed suit. This caused the class to form a circle around the two girls for everyone to see clearly. Remember, this is just a friendly spar. No need for anything harmful, Iruka said. He got them to do the friendship sign before getting them to engage. Begin. Naruto's look of indifference twisted into a look of disdain as his eyes were brutally forced to witness this shambolic chicken fight between the two girls. Really, his eyes were just screaming at his hands to pluck them out to save them from the horrors. How could Academy kids fight so pathetic? It made watching turtles do a 80 meters sprint all fun. Even their teacher had the face to show his displeasure in the scuffle. It wasn't considered to be a fight. Not by any chance. 100-year-old grannies could fight better. Ino did win. Cheers to her fans. If it was a comedy show, Naruto wouldn't have been blamed if he had uncharacteristically thrown tomatoes at the two girls while shouting, "You suck." It was just horrible, and he felt relieved when they stopped doing whatever they were doing. It was even an embarrassment to think that Ino was associated with him and was a clan heir. What were these parents teaching their children? Ino walked towards Naruto as Iruka began talking once more, calling two more girls to demonstrate proper academy taijutsu. That was pathetic. If I was the one who taught you, I'd wish for an execution, Naruto said bluntly at the blonde-haired girl. Ino huffed. As if you could do better, she said. Seeing the look Naruto gave her, she huffed once more, pink tints on her cheeks. Naruto was a better fighter. She'd seen him beat bullies older than him. He took after his mother. I haven't been training that much, okay. I would be shocked if you said you trained at all. I think even a child who started walking a day ago can do better than that, Naruto said, once more bluntly. Ino glared at Naruto for his responses. She was used to it, but that didn't mean it made her smile when she heard of it. She was tempted to even curse him. But it wouldn't do any good. He was her Black Knight after all. If you think I that much, why don't you help me? Yeah, like you want to train instead of hanging out with your friends, Choji said, earning himself a glare from Ino. But it was the truth. Hence the boy only shrugged. Looking back at the ring, Iruka already had Sasuke at his corner, his eyes looming above Naruto. Naruto, why don't you come here and spar with Sasuke? Naruto shrugged. I'd rather not, the blonde said. I insist, Iruka said rather forcefully. Naruto stood still. Kiba took the chance to mock the blonde. What, can't you fight without your mother cheering for you? Mama's boy. Naruto didn't look at Kiba, but he still responded, Kiba, regardless of what you eat and whatever possesses you, do not speak of my other. That said, Naruto went on to face Sasuke, who was smirking at him. How he wished he could just slap that smirk off his face in a second and go home to do something useful. I thought you were going to chicken out on me, Sasuke said with a smirk. Naruto wanted to frown. He took no joy in exchanging cheeky remarks with anyone. He could state his observations in the way they were without coloring anything, but an exchange of a talk like this wasn't what he came here for. No wonder he didn't like Kiba's company. Still, he resisted the urge to frown, and put on his indifferent mask, looked at the young Uchiha for a few moments before forwarding his eyes to the Chunin teacher on his right. Can we get this over with already? Naruto wasn't the only one who resisted the urge to frown, Iruka did. Ironically, it was because of the words Naruto had said to him. The Chunin teacher sighed before looking between the two boys. He knew that they were not hostile to each other, and mostly came to school together. Sometimes it was Sasuke's mother or Naruto's mother who came around after school, sometimes the two boys went home together. Still, they weren't exactly friends. Iruka knew that Sasuke wouldn't want to lose in this sparring session. There was no one who took his academic studies more seriously than Sasuke. The Chunin thought perhaps it was because the boy was burdened with a lot of expectations. He was a brother to a prodigy, and cast in the shadow of his brother. Naturally, he has to put more effort in his work to step out of that shadow. It was a line of thought that made Iruka confident that Sasuke wouldn't play with Naruto, but would do exceedingly well to fulfill his expectations. The blonde had stolen the Uchiha's spot as the top dog in the last real test he had them right a few days ago. This was a chance to redeem himself. And Iruka had his fingers crossed, praying that Sasuke does so with flying colors. In his anticipation, Iruka decided to forego all proper traditions before a friendly spar. Begin, he simply shouted. Sasuke lost his smirk. He matched Naruto's mask of indifference as he readied himself for assault. His brother has always told him to hide his emotions during a battle, for that will make him difficult to read. He could never read Naruto, unless he decides to give out that look of complete utter boredom when the situation calls for it. The young Uchiha darted towards Naruto straight on. It was an impressive speed for an academy student. As soon as Sasuke reached Naruto, he jumped up slightly before twisting in mid-air. His right foot was sent straight at Naruto's head. The blonde jumped back slightly to avoid the kick that would have sent him to the side. As soon as Sasuke landed down on the ground, he charged at Naruto once again, flashed a left hook which was blocked, then another, blocked as well. He attempted a right punch straight at Naruto's face. The blonde caught the punch, held Sasuke's fist firmly, before his right foot stomped on the Uchiha's left. He then yanked Sasuke towards him and grabbed the Uchiha by his shirt's neck. "I have been training longer than you have. Itachi may be teaching you taijutsu, but my teacher is better than him in that regard. I have beaten you before, while holding back. Do you think you can miraculously do better than me, Sasuke?" Naruto asked, in a low whisper, just so only the Uchiha could hear him. Sasuke gritted his teeth and tried to headbutt Naruto, but Naruto used his hold on the Uchiha to push him back while leaning back slightly. The fact that his foot was still on the Uchiha's made him off balance due to his push. Naruto took his foot off Sasuke's, allowing the Uchiha to balance himself. The blonde looked up for a moment. "Shall we end it? We have dinner tonight at your house." Sasuke winced at the thought. Their mothers would certainly go at it if one of them won. It didn't matter who won. Both he and Naruto would suffer from their exchange. Sasuke had seen it when Naruto got better marks in the first real test. Those women had made some sort of a bet, and it was downright annoying when everything became a heated debate about who was better. Surprisingly to everyone around, Sasuke nodded. He smiled though, a bit forced. "You owe me the next time we train with Itachi," he said before looking at Iruka. "I guess you can call it a draw," he said before walking away. Iruka frowned. Said nothing for a few moments, allowing the words Sasuke had said to him to play over and over again. He didn't get what he wanted. Frustrating. At this rate, Mizuki was going to have his way. If Iruka's hearing was working quite perfectly, he was sure he heard the Chunin say that he would get the blonde into the training grounds and accidentally hit him hard while teaching him something. Sighing, Iruka looked at his students before speaking, "Take an hour break. And be back at class after which," he said, a bit slowly, and walked away. "Wow, I have never seen Iruka-sensei so down before," Choji said, looking at the retreating form of their Chunin teacher. "You really did a number on him this time, huh?" he added, addressing Naruto. The blonde merely sighed, walking towards his favorite tree to do something useful. Shikamaru decided to return to class quickly to get some much-needed sleep while Choji followed because his school bag was in class. His possessions were there as well. As he settled down beside the tree, Naruto didn't take out his book as he would have liked. He was faced by a mob of girls. He looked up to them. "What?" His tone was sharp. "Stay away from Sasuke-kun, and stop trying to compete with him. You can never be like him or even better than him. You're a nobody." How boring. To think that he had been made to come here to this place just to listen to this nonsense. Worst of all, to be creeped out by the fact that Ino hung out with such a company. The girl was smart. How could she lower herself to bow before this crowd and follow the usual chants and parade? Naruto was certain that another reason Shikamaru didn't like eating with him at lunch was that he feared these fools. Apparently, everyone was afraid of the fangirls as they could do anything. He had even witnessed them give Iruka some death glares. Naruto wouldn't even be surprised if the girls plotted murder if someone made their prized Uchiha look bad. Naruto didn't fear them. They were just pathetic girls he could beat up with his eyes closed if they turned on the violence volume. He has been in some sort of one-sided bad blood with them because of the perceived closeness to their Uchiha. His stating of the fact that they were going to have dinner at Sasuke's house must have been the breaking point. The blonde looked just behind the girls. Ino was standing there, looking conflicted. Naruto just sighed. He has ignored the fangirls when they turned their attention towards him. He knew it bothered the girl that she couldn't do anything. Well, she could. The consequences were just not good for her. Naruto took out his book, flipped it, opening a page before responding. I heard you the last time you spoke, he said. Now will you be kind enough to leave me alone? I can't read in peace while you're standing there. Are you dismissing us like that? Someone shouted. Naruto suppressed a wince at the loudness of the voice. His eyes fixed on the girls. It was a rather stern look that clearly told them to piss off or else. They may be idiots filled with images of Sasuke in their heads, but they knew danger when they saw it. Heads held high, the girls walked away. Ino took the time to crawl beside her Black Knight. Once more again, she curled up beside the tree, knees pressed against her chest. I'm sorry. If Naruto thought he had no emotions or did not care for the blonde, then he had to crush this thought right away. It wasn't the first time that the girl sat so pathetically sad like this when bad things happened to him. It bothered him greatly. He wanted to pull his hair because he failed to understand why it bothered him so much to see her so miserable. I'm sorry, Ino repeated again, eyes locked down with the ground. You've always been there for me. Always. Whenever I call for your help, you always help me out. But when you need me, I can't do anything. I just watch, she whispered sadly. That miserable tone. He hated it. She never used it before the academy. You shouldn't bother with it. I can handle it. I handled them. Naruto tried to be dismissive about it. I know you can handle them, Ino said. But you already take a lot outside the academy, Naruto frowned. And here, they still call you worthless, a nobody, a loser and other bad names. You're not worthless. I may admit it, you're just better than Sasuke. You're not trying to be like him or anything. You don't deserve it, most of all. He was her Black Knight. There are a lot of things that we deserve but never get them. No. I know, but I'm in a position to stop them from calling you unpleasant names they hear outside. I'm your friend, but I'm afraid to do anything because I might lose their friendship. I can stop it, but I'm afraid and I comfort myself by coming here. It even bothers me knowing that you can handle them, but can't stop them from saying whatever they want. Naruto frowned. He wasn't going to read his book. But that wasn't the problem. This kind of conversation he was having with Ino was the problem. Honestly, he hated being put in this kind of position. It bothered him. Ino worried because she cared for him, just like Sandaime and Kakashi. Strengthening his mask, Naruto opened his mouth to speak. I cannot tell you what to do. But I don't need you to fight my battles. I can do that. On another note, what do you see? You're smart, they are not. You wouldn't understand, Ino said. I won't disagree there, Naruto sighed. Just don't worry about me. I can handle myself. What they say doesn't bother me. Compared to what he has taken from the villagers, a bunch of idiotic fangirls couldn't even scratch him. He didn't spare them a thought. They were not worth it. It isn't a matter of whether it bothers you or not, Ino said. Why couldn't he get it? Your inability to do anything to stop the situation from occurring is the problem. Naruto said, eyeing the blonde briefly before looking into the empty space ahead. Finally, it bothered her because of it. Naruto has always helped her. She felt some guilt because she couldn't help him, especially when it was her friends bothering him. She should be stopping them. But she was caught between two things, and she didn't know what to do. If you don't want it to bother you so much, do something about it. Perhaps then you will feel better, and he won't be forced to go through another conversation like this. I'm not like you. Really. You've always been strong and head-on. Was it all just a mask? Of course no. Ino raised her voice a bit. Her expression changed a bit as she carefully laid out her next words. How about I buy you ramen later on today? I know you love it. Just don't tell anyone. That's cool, but do you really think I will tell Sasuke? He doesn't even take interest in you. Nor even think of you, Naruto said, earning a glare from Ino. Trust me. I train with him sometimes. I used to live at his house. Don't you think I should know better? Think of something better to do other than fawning at Sasuke because he sees you as annoying girls. He will not notice you. Ino glared at Naruto. He just killed her mood. But she knew he should know Sasuke better. Speak more like that and you'll have that ramen on your own. Naruto gave a nonchalant shrug. I wouldn't complain either way. I do, however, enjoy the meal when someone is buying. So, I will keep it down. The blonde glanced at Ino for a moment, his expression a bit serious. A word of advice. Things start small, and eventually grow. Don't let your crush grow, Ino. You will turn out to be an annoying little girl and a failure for a kunoichi if you grow up like this. Watch it, Naruto, Ino warned. Naruto just dismissed her warning with a wave of his hand. I wasn't done, he said. Ino, you're smart. Don't let this fangirl attitude consume your every thought. Sasuke is nothing special. You're something else. You shouldn't be throwing yourself like this, you're not cheap. If I had any interest, I wouldn't allow you to run after me, rather, I would run after you. That said, Naruto went back to his book. Ino slapped both her cheeks and looked away from Naruto. A few minutes later, the damn class once more again. What Naruto would give just to be locked away from this hellish academy. What has he accomplished or even learned that is worthwhile? To be more precisely, what has this academy taught him that will further help him keep his mother safe and his own life safe? The answer came quick as a striking lightning. Nothing. He had told the Sandaime of this again and again, but the old man and his mother keep telling him that even though he doesn't learn anything academically, the academy was still good for him. He had to make friends his age, they argued. Still, Naruto saw the glaring holes this time-wasting academy was putting into his usual training adventures. Oh well, he was here. There was no use brooding over it over and over again. The situation wasn't going to change. He wasn't going to go against his mother's wishes. At least on something like this. It sort of gave her hope that he could have a normal childhood. He was still young, and could still grow up with a few good friends. Naruto hadn't thought of that. The only perfect world he had thought of having was one with him and his mother. A bit bitterly, he used to wish for one with both parents. Make the best out of the situation and try to grow around it, he'd told Tamari. But here he was trying to run away from a situation his mother had brought to him. Why couldn't he live by the very same words he preached? Naruto didn't like to believe that he was a hypocrite. Far from it. Application in this situation was just a bit difficult. But he understood that brooding over it would only make him miserable, and that would hurt his mother. Kushina wanted to see him smile and play with other kids. His priorities were ensuring his mother was safe and that she was happy. If he kept resisting, she would only frown at him. Naruto sighed, looking at the back of Ino, seated in the front row. There is time, he thought. That girl was troublesome though. Thinking about it gave him a slight frown. So Naruto shifted away from her. He hadn't been lucky to take his gaze from her without notice. Shikamaru smokes, causing Naruto to turn his eyes towards the Nara air. You look like you're thinking deep, Shikamaru said, sitting on Naruto's right hand, in the rear row. His gaze turned towards Naruto's object of interest for a moment before lazily eyeing Naruto once more. You haven't told me, how did you come to know Ino? She doesn't seem to be like your type. Naruto gave a noncommittal shrug. You didn't ask, he said. Right, Shikamaru said. He realized he didn't really want to know how the two met. Shikamaru eyed the blonde with a faintly curious gaze. Naruto noted, but chose not to comment on. Nara weighed on his thoughts for a couple of seconds before releasing a breath. My father wants me to befriend you, Nara said. It was easier this way than being sneaking about it. Naruto was too smart to remain oblivious of it. And it would be too damn troublesome to be caught in that situation and be forced to explain himself. Saying it now meant he didn't have to trouble himself with anything in the near future. If Naruto was surprised, he didn't show. His response didn't even strike a precise spot, it merely kept one guessing. I see, the response came easily enough. You're not surprised, Shikamaru stated. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, he added. Shogi at my house after the academy. You up for it? Why not? I could do something to sharpen my mind while killing some time, Naruto said. 3 hours later. Hokage office. The Sandaime Hokage smiled warmly when his favorite blonde walked into the office. He has laid claim for longer than any of his predecessors, as well as his short-lived successor. Academy done for the day? Hiruzen asked. Despite his question, he knew quite well Naruto couldn't ditch the academy because his mother wouldn't be happy with him, if he did so. Naruto responded by giving the Sandaime a slight nod of his head as he made himself comfortable on the chair in front of the Sandaime's desk. He was rather pleased to see that Jiraiya wasn't present. The man was rather persistent in his hunt for some involvement in his life. Naruto reasoned it was better to let the Sannin suffer the cold winds for some time. He was smart enough to know that Jiraiya had his uses. If the man was willing to offer his help, who was he to deny it? The man was a powerful shinobi, one taught by the professor. Stupidity and ignorance would be the only substance that leads him to miss out on a chance to learn something from the man. Naruto looked at the Sandaime Hokage with a curious gaze. A brief flash of memories played through before his lips parted. I had a rather interesting conversation with Shikaku-san. Oh. No surprise was evident in the Sandaime's aged face, but the curiosity was hardly hidden. Naruto returned to the chair, stared into the eyes of the Sandaime, trying to configure his thoughts a bit. Yes, he said, taking a pause to think once more. I appreciated his honesty when I asked if you'd sent for him speak to me. Shikaku is a good person. I've known him long enough to know he wouldn't lie. Besides, lying would have been troublesome to the man, as he would say. If he figured telling the truth was the best option, then he would do so. Sandaime had to keep his mask locked firmly when Naruto's curious gaze fell upon him once more as the blonde studied him intently. He reminded himself that the blonde learned to read people. His mental defenses were always in check when he was around those curious eyes. It slightly bothered him that Naruto was never subtle when he studied you. You have really been pulling all the strings to change me and keep me happy, Naruto said ever so calmly. What do you think is so special about me that you're willing to do almost everything to ensure all is well? I know you well enough to conclude that you're only thinking about the figure. Naruto took another pause, narrowing his eyes further when the Sandaime's mask held up. Is it perhaps something you fear? I would imagine that would be the case. The third released a long breath before relaxing. How bothersome that he had to be on guard against a 7-year-old. Why do you think there is something I fear, Naruto-kun? Sarutobi asked, his tone lacking any curiosity. By that Naruto assumed he may have been right. That I may perhaps leave this village with my mother if I believe it is good for both of us. The chances of that happening are very high, at least when I become strong enough to protect her. There is another issue with Danzo. Does it scare you that I may be tempted to join his brutal crusade in the hunt for power if he offered? Sarutobi frowned. Naruto was dead on. He really should have had Kushina restrict Naruto's entry to Minato's study. Then again, Kushina would have just told him about Danzo anyway. You may be right, the third said, not wanting to outright admit that the blonde was right. I just want to create a better and secure future for you, in this village naturally. I want you to grow strong and show Konoha that you're indeed a hero. Perhaps then they will accept you. I know what this treatment you receive has put a rather negative image not only on Konoha but on humanity. That would be because Naruto knew that Jinchurikis were frowned upon in every land. It wasn't just Konoha, but every other village. Konoha may be the one to have tormented him, but Naruto looked far abroad than just Konoha. Perhaps that is because he'd considered leaving this village. Negative image. Naruto repeated, looking to be in thought. I have asked myself this question. What if everyone else who hates me just disappears? Would I be free then? Would I be able to live in a hate-free world and walk along all streets without a heated glare trying to murder me? Do you know what the answer my reasonable mind gave me, old man? Hiruzen just frowned. The answer was obvious. An ideal world. Nobody could fault me for wishing to be happy. A year ago, if someone had offered to make that wish come true, I would have jumped at the opportunity, Naruto said in an honest statement. This was why Sandaime did everything in his power to make Naruto happy, and why his mother pushed for him to make friends. Perhaps he would grow up with his generation in peace, and they would accept him. He wanted the blonde to see that there were nice people out there and that not everyone was bad. Itachi opened up a lot, and my mother always tells me to be optimistic and never lose hope, because once you lose hope. Naruto let the words hang, and Sandaime could figure out the rest. I have hope. Perhaps it is the only thing that makes me sane. Perhaps no, rather, the love for and of my mother. It is the fact that you still hope that I try to create a better future for you, the third smiled sadly. I fear I may not live long enough to see you laughing happily, but I still want to do something. I don't want to end my tenure without the assurance that I have done all I could. Silence settled in for a few moments. But it was broken when Jiraiya crashed into the office through the window. The Sannin seemed to notice that Naruto was in the office because he didn't say anything before he put on a nervous smile and spoke. Naruto, the Sannin wasn't sure if he was greeting the blonde or just calling his name. Naruto glanced at Sannin for a moment. Jiraiya, his eyes went back to the Sandaime as he stood up. I better be going. As Naruto turned to leave, Jiraiya mustered his courage and spoke, wait. Can I talk to you, Naruto? His tone was almost pleading. Some other time, Naruto said. The remaining time of the day is reserved for my mother before we go to the Uchihas. You can talk to me when I'm available. That is, if you don't suddenly disappear. Jiraiya would have flinched, but Naruto clearly had no malice or hatred in his tone. It was just light and he felt as though he was merely stating a fact. For this reason Jiraiya just frowned, but nodded nonetheless. I will be around, he proclaimed rather strongly. Naruto stopped for a moment, turned around to face the Sannin. Jiraiya reasoned it was the firmness of his tone that caused this reaction from Naruto. The blonde looked at Jiraiya inventively. Sannin noted it was possibly the first time that Naruto had really looked into his eyes. The blonde said nothing though. He turned around and soundlessly felt the office. Jiraiya looked at his sensei. That is a good sign, right? That depends, Sandaime responded. Are planning on disappearing or are you going to stay grounded and take your responsibility? Uchiha compound. Dinner with the Uchihas. For Kushina this was always a pleasant time for her and she knew well enough that Mikoto enjoyed this as well. There was an unwritten pact between the Uchiha and the Uzumaki. The main family and the Uzumaki were family, not like family. They may not be related by blood, but they treated each other as family. It was for this reason that Kushina thoroughly enjoyed her time on these occasions. One day, Fugaku decided to join them. The Uchiha head didn't usually join them during their dinners, not because he just didn't want to. But the man was always busy with the police force and the council. In recent months, he hardly came back here. He was always locked up in his office at the military force headquarters. Naturally, Sasuke was sitting on Itachi's right hand with their mother on the left side, Fugaku sitting by Sasuke's side. On the other side of the table, Naruto was pleasantly sitting by her side, as always. So Naruto, Fugaku, started, looking over to the blonde, taking a temporary pause from eating his meal. Mikoto tells me you've been doing excellently well in the academy. Naruto gave a barely noticeable nod. That is the case, he said. His tone displayed no form of pride in his record. It was obvious he took no joy in knowing that he was doing excellently better than other students. Fugaku hadn't expected anything less from the blonde. He may be young, but he was an interesting child. He reasoned that losing a father the day you're born, getting a biju sealed inside of you, and then subsequently being hated by the village could change a person. Naruto aimed higher and the Uchiha head believed that the blonde would reach what he sought. He had the determination and the will to push on. Fugaku didn't want to frown at the thought of comparing the child of Minato to his youngest son. Sasuke and Naruto were two different people. In his own right, Sasuke was a genius. Fugaku didn't deny that. This despite the fact that he rarely gave the boy interest. He reasoned that appearing uncaring would force the boy to try harder to surpass his brother. So far it has seemed to work, or so he liked to tell himself. Despite knowing that he was only stating the obvious and what everyone else knew, Fugaku didn't hold himself from stating it. You're not thrilled by it. Well, almost everyone, of course he is thrilled. Kushina butt in, a bit loudly. Right, Naru-chan. Predictably, Naruto's response was to smile warmly to his mother. Of course mother, he said. Itachi inwardly shook his head. He assumed Naruto was agreeing with his mother on a different note. While the glaring truth was that he wasn't proud of his achievements from the academy, Itachi could assume the blonde was still happy that he was proving him, the Sandaime and Kakashi wrong. The academy couldn't teach him anything and he would do well even with his eyes closed. At least his presence at the academy gives someone Sasuke can compete with, Mikoto added, a little bit down. Of course she wasn't happy that Naruto was doing better than Sasuke. Not for the wrong reasons, but because she was losing her bet to Kushina, and the woman took glee in it. Fugaku nodded in agreement. Competing with Itachi isn't really fair for him. As much as he may try to be like his brother, Sasuke can never quite pull out another Itachi. Fugaku's words seemed to do nothing but crush the raven-haired boy beside Itachi. Even though the Uchiha head saw the deflated look on his son's face, he didn't bother trying to explain the meaning of his words to the boy. Noting Sasuke's despair, Itachi nudged his little brother a little, offering him a small warm smile. What father meant is that you don't think like me, you don't have my determination, experiences that drove me to become what I have become. Because of this, you can't be another me. However, his smile widened a bit, it doesn't mean you can't surpass me one day. I know you will. That lifted up Sasuke's spirits. Once more, the boy beamed up, casting away the gloomy clouds above him that had threatened to drench him in cold depression. Mikoto smiled at her son as well. I also believe that you will surpass your brother, Sasu-chan, she said warmly. I will not disappoint you, Okawa-san, Sasuke said, enjoying the faith his mother and brother have in him. I know you won't, Mikoto said. Sasuke looked at Naruto, gave the blonde a look that clearly said, hear that. My brother thinks I will surpass him one day, not you. So does my mother. Naruto merely shrugged in response, but that didn't deter Sasuke's spirits. The boy continued to be happy. Naruto could have pointed out as he was now, he could graduate from the academy by the end of the year. But he knew for certain that the Sandaime wouldn't permit it. Even his mother would snap if he thought of leaving the academy. Kushina, Fugaku said, his tone mildly curious. I hear your clan is going to be restored, or at least you're going to make an attempt to do so. All eyes turned towards the Uzumaki woman, who had a small smile on her face. It was kind of a smile Naruto had never seen on her. No, she just reserved it for when she thinks fondly of their clan. At least he reasoned. It was likely the case nevertheless. You belong to a clan? Sasuke asked, a raised brow, looking between Naruto and his mother. The only thing special about the two he knew was that they were the family of the late Yondaime Hokage. He wasn't aware Kushina was from a clan. Kushina nodded, her smile turning sad slightly. The Uzumaki clan, she simply said. Sasuke tilted his head, clearly not satisfied by the response. He has never heard of anything about that. He reasoned that it could have something to do with the fact that Naruto was a Jinchuriki and the fact that he was the son of the Yondaime Hokage. They were a prestigious clan who resided in their village called the Village Hidden in Whirlpools. They were blood relatives of the Senju clan and had a healthy relationship with the clan. That relationship extended to Konoha. The Shodai Hokage's wife was from the Whirlpools, an Uzumaki woman. Kushina once lived there before coming here, Mikoto explained. You say, were. Mikoto nodded but didn't explain, Kushina did. My clan was peace-loving. We never took part in the shinobi wars despite being allies of Konoha, which was always in the center stage of the wars. Despite this, my clan was known throughout for possessing strong chakra, a strong life force, and most of all, we were masters of Fuinjutsu. Minato is renowned for his use in Fuinjutsu. I was in fact the one who taught him a couple of things. Unfortunately, my clan grew too powerful, and the fact that we never participated in wars meant that our shinobi kept growing. During the Second Shinobi World War, a combined army of Kiri and Kumo attacked us. The clan was wiped out. I only survived because by that time, I had already transferred here in Konoha. So, the blonde was not only smart, a Jinchuriki, but he was from a clan as well. If two villages had to combine their forces in order to fight them, then they had to be powerful. Naturally, Sasuke didn't dare think that the Uzumaki could be a match for the Uchiha. Still, to think that Naruto's clan was able to survive in a village of its own and grow so powerful that other villages felt threatened was something else. He may not know much about the clan, but at this moment, decided that the Uzumaki were worthy of respect. So you're not clanless, Sasuke remarked, with a small smirk, eyes firmly at the blonde. No, Naruto said, feeling threatened already. The blonde asked with a raised brow. Sasuke scoffed, by who? There are just the two of you. You're far away from threatening the Uchiha. Something clicked in Sasuke's mind. As this is why you wish for the clan to be restored? Yes, Kushina said with a nod. I still believe that there might be survivors out there. Hopefully, when Naru-chan grows up he will find them, right, Naru-chan? It was a conversation they once held, and he had promised to bring the family back together. Naruto knew that his mother had other reasons for wanting the clan to be restored. He could make a few guesses. But it didn't matter because he would do anything to make his mother happy. Of course, mother. The Uzumaki clan will be restored to its former glory, Naruto said, looking straight at his mother. Uncharacteristically, he wore a rather serious expression. It was a bit out of character because he always preferred a smile when addressing his mother. Kushina merely smiled at her son, before looking back at Fugaku who was continuing from where he had left off. You do know the political consequences for this, how it will affect young Naruto. Kushina nodded. The Sandaime explained everything to me. In fact, it was his idea. Fugaku noted that Naruto hadn't smiled when Kushina said those words. The Uchiha head smiled inwardly. He really wished the boy was his son. Really. He must know Sandaime's motives for proposing such an idea, Fugaku thought. Naruto had no attachment to Konoha other than his mother. If something were to happen to the woman, the blonde would leave the village. No doubt about that. He reasoned that Sandaime realized the only way to tie down both mother and son was to give something the mother wanted. Naturally, Naruto would follow his mother's lead, and judging by the look on the blonde's face, Fugaku could say it was going to work. What a sly old man Sandaime was. Kushina probably accepted it because she believed it would create a family for Naruto, give him a healthy environment. Fugaku didn't believe for a second that Kushina wasn't aware that the Sandaime had other motives. Still, Naruto read underneath quite well for his age. Fugaku suppressed the urge to laugh because he knew that even Naruto twisted the third's hand, by using his love for him to get what he wanted. The two obviously cared for each other, but were not above manipulating each other. It was a rather unique situation. I see, Fugaku said. If there is anything you need, talk to me. Mito was an Uzumaki. Since no one is here to claim the Senju compound, I figure you may be in a position to inherit everything. Naturally, you will be faced with opposition. The Uchiha head rose from his head. Itachi, come to the police force HQ when you're done, the man said. Hi, father, the Uchiha prodigy said monotonously. Naruto gave the Uchiha a glance, but said nothing. The rest of the dinner went along silently well. A week later, Kushina always enjoyed the sweet moments she spent with her son, especially when it was like this, enjoying a meal in their house. Soon to be ex-house. She liked the Uchihas, they were family, but this was a real family. The only part of the family that was missing was Minato. He wasn't here with them. How she wished he could be here for them, give them one of his stupid smiles. For so often Kushina has allowed her loss to get the best of her, she has allowed it to get a hold of her emotions and led her into a fit of tears. It shouldn't be like that. It was even more troubling when she had to rely on her Naruto for comfort. It bothered her that he had stopped crying just to be strong for her. She hated her weakness. Naruto has always been strong. It reminded her of when she was younger. She was always strong, always dealing with her problems head-on. She smacked any problem she faced to a pulp. But what had become of her? Mikoto was right, she wasn't like her old self. She should be the one comforting Naruto, not the other way around. Still, Kushina was proud that she had a son so strong mentally. He didn't allow for anyone to push him around. Kushina smiled sadly, looking over the table, where Naruto was seated, enjoying his dinner. She looked up as his eyes met with hers. He gave her a curious glance. His lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but he shut them. Kushina assumed the curious gaze was summoned because of her sad smile. Such a sweet child, always worried about his mother. I'm sorry, Naruto. I haven't been the best of mothers. It is a little embarrassing to think that I have to cuddle up with my 7-year-old son in my moments of weakness. Kushina's sad smile turned into a nervous one, she complimented it with a nervous chuckle. If she hadn't been eating, she would have scratched the back of her head. Naruto shook his head, a bit firmly. You have been the best mother. I couldn't ask for more in what you have given me. His response was just as firm as the shaking of his head. You wouldn't ask even if there was something you needed, Naruto, Kushina said, her smile all sad again. Naruto didn't refute that. He knew she was right. Thank you for speaking to Mikoto, and thank you for being such a wonderful son. Naruto smiled at his mother, eyes brightened a bit, his tone laced with some of happiness. I do what I can, he said before adding. But it wasn't my idea to speak to Mikoto. It was Itachi's. Kushina didn't find that surprising. Not the least. I guess I will thank him as well. But it is your thought that counts the most. Honestly, you act like an adult sometimes. I should have been the one comforting you when you were crying. It is not a sign of weakness, mother. You have always protected me from the villagers who tried something on me. You have been a mother, my protector. The battle against the villagers is one I couldn't win, but you were strong for me when I couldn't do anything, Naruto said, with a small smile. I don't know what it feels like, but you lost someone who became your friend when you were still at the academy. You lost a part of you. I can't replace that. Being there for you as you have been for me is what I can do. Our bond only grows stronger when we rely on each. How far her child has grown. Kushina wished Minato was here. But that was just a wish. This was the reality. It was just the two of them. Regardless, the day you feel like crying, no matter how old you're, come to me. As your mother, I will comfort you, Kushina said in a motherly tone. Naruto nodded with a warm smile that was only reserved for his mother. I will remember that, he said. If you keep doing this, you will make a girl happy one day, Kushina said, smiling as she did. I wish you were like this with Ino-chan as well. Naruto suppressed the urge to frown. He didn't think about girls. Showing a bit of his warmer side to Ino was something he wasn't willing to do. He wasn't an emotionless zombie. He just felt only his mother deserved his kindness. Then again, Ino has always been there. Even now at the academy. That was the thought that wanted him to frown. If his reasoning was that only his mother deserved his warmer smile, then at least Ino deserved something as well. He may have been the one to be bailing her out on a regular basis, but then in her own way, she has always been supportive. Though he may never admit it to her, she was one of those people who helped him keep his faith and hope in humans being capable of doing what was right, being able to change and do things without expecting something in return. She forces me into talking more often than I like, Naruto said of Ino. Kushina actually smiled at this. That is more like Ino, she said. I might even encourage her to drag you out for something to eat like she did last time. You wouldn't do that, would you? Ino is a smart girl, but when it was just the two of us eating, I regretted agreeing to go with her in the first place. I don't want to go through that hell again. Kushina merely chuckled and waved off her son. At least she can force you to do what you don't want. Regardless, it's good for you and I am really happy that you can hang out with someone your age and just talk about random stuff. I am really happy. Naruto had to contain himself from frowning. He just nodded with a smile, a small smile. To keep himself from being a two-faced hypocrite, he had to try. He'd told Temari about working around their issue, trying to get used to it, They were still young and would eventually grow familiar with each other. Damn his mouth. He had to once again apply those words. A few nights later. To think that things would come to this. Itachi shook his head. It had to be done, he told himself. He had listened well to Naruto's thoughts. The blonde was willing to do anything to protect that which he loved the most, anything. He had told himself that there was nothing wrong with it. Naruto had spoken with conviction and Itachi had no doubt the blonde would follow up to that conviction. He also knew that Naruto would understand his situation. For this reason, Itachi stood atop of Naruto's house in the middle of the night with the blonde beside him. So nothing has solved the matter, Naruto said, in a seated position, his legs folded, head cocked to the side, not looking at anything in particular, but at the empty space ahead of him. Itachi shook his head. My mission to Kiri was to prove whether it was indeed true that the Yondaime Mizukage was being manipulated by the Sharingan. That proved to be true, and it was the masked man doing it. The Uchiha paused for a moment, studying the blonde, who was now looking at him with an expressionless mask. I see, was all Naruto said. The revelation did no good with the elders. They believed that the Uchiha were behind it, and in turn my clan decided to push the coup d'état ahead of schedule. My father would have ultimately used you, technically the Kyuubi, to gain more power in his fight, Itachi said. Danzo ordered me to rid of the clan before they initiate their plan. If the coup d'état were to occur, with the Kyuubi likely to be released, it would further make me miserable and likely put my mother in danger, Naruto said. I assume the Sandaime isn't aware of this. Itachi shook his head. He still believes they can talk things out, he said. He then walked up to Naruto, kneeled before the blonde, his expression a number of emotions. I can't kill Sasuke. I can't do it. Please Naruto, watch over him for me. I know this will deal a major blow on his mind, I need you to take care of him. Itachi was pleading, almost begging. The request did nothing but cause Naruto to frown. I guess I owe you that much. But if he becomes a problem to my mother, I will deal with him painfully. If he does anything that will risk her safety, I will kill him with my own hands. Itachi just nodded. That was the best he could get out of Naruto. But just to be safe, he would speak to Sandaime after the mission. Why kill everyone though? Danzo believes it is necessary, or else they will revolt at a later stage. Naruto frowned. Itachi, your objective is to stop a coup d'état from occurring. There are innocent families and children who know nothing about the coup, are you going to kill them too? If yes, better just warn me when the coup will occur so I can leave this village with my mother so we don't get caught up. Itachi didn't let his emotions show. If I don't do it, Danzo will. I would rather they die honorably by my blade. Naruto stood up. If you kill everyone, Sasuke will lose it. He will become something uncontrollable and I will kill him before the year ends. You know how gullible he is. My mother will be affected by Mikoto's death as well. She can't afford to lose a true friend. He turned away from the Uchiha. My mother will be left broken. Should that happen, I will kill Sasuke, and hunt you for the rest of your life. I don't particularly care for them, but Itachi, think about what you're doing carefully. You care for Konoha, and Sasuke. Killing everything will lead to Sasuke's death. You know I will kill him if my mother is wounded. I imagine for you to avoid that, you'd have to kill me as well. But my death will mean the release of the Kyuubi. Ultimately that will see Konoha seeing another rampage. Itachi narrowed his eyes, what are you saying? I understand that you want to protect Konoha. Killing only those who can harm Konoha is the best choice for Konoha, Sasuke and me. Look at it, you avoid a coup to start, and your mother gets to rebuild the clan anew, while being there for Sasuke to ensure that he doesn't fall into the wrong path. I'm sure you can save your people from Danzo. If you don't want that, we have a problem because I must also protect what I love. Your options are simple, kill only those who are threatening Konoha, and we will get along, kill everyone else, and leave Sasuke, which in turn will hurt my mother. In response, I will hurt you by killing Sasuke and hunt you down. To avoid that happening, you'd have to kill me as well. However, I will not stand for that to happen. I will even go as far as to let the Kyuubi out to protect myself. Your mother will still be in danger if you do that, Itachi pointed out. Naruto shook his head. My mother can restrain Kyuubi. In its current form, it wouldn't be difficult. Mind you, she once was a former host, and she is a seal master. Her clan developed Biju sealing techniques. Itachi frowned, knowing that Naruto was right. The choice is yours, Itachi, said. Naruto started to walk away. Even with my mother alive, will you look after Sasuke? Take him as your brother. Itachi called out, considering his options. Not for a second did he doubt Naruto's words. The blonde was willing to do anything possible and impossible to protect what he loved the most. He was willing to do that as well. So he could understand. With your mother alive, my mother will not suffer. I can manage your foolish brother. I owe it to you at least for everything you've done for me. And that's the end of part 2. How did you like this part? Tell me in the comments, do you think Naruto made the right choice by rejecting Konoha? If you want part 3, then please like this video and comment, next part. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'll see you in the next part. Take care, bye.